Chapter 1. As soon as Juliana clung to Dad's arm, eager to leave with him, Mom's expression darkened. She stepped forward and pulled her back. "Juliana, are you really sure you want to go with Dad? He's lost everything. He won't even be able to buy you your favorite princess dresses anymore. If you go with him, you'll face a lot of hardships." Upon hearing these words, Dad awkwardly pursed his lips and glanced at Juliana with a mix of hope and guilt. It was a look he had never given me. If Juliana went with Dad, she'd suffer. But did that mean I didn't matter? Mom and Dad had always favored Juliana, and even now, they fought over her custody as if I didn't exist. I stood there, watching their family of 3, feeling like an outsider. At that moment, Juliana suddenly shoved me toward Mom and threw herself into Dad's arms. "I'm not afraid of hardships. I love Dad the most. As long as I'm with him, I can endure anything." She nestled into Dad's embrace, as though afraid Mom might try to separate them. Juliana, who had been so spoiled that she became a bit arrogant, saying such things, moved Dad deeply. He didn't even notice Mom's darkening expression beside him. "Ophelia has never had anything good since she was little. Let her stay with Mom and enjoy a better life." When Juliana said this, she even added a sob, as if she pitied me. Mom's face grew even darker. She pushed me away and scolded me, "Look at your sister, how thoughtful she is. You're older than her, yet you don't know how to be considerate." Seeing Mom treat me this way, Juliana secretly gave me a smug, provocative smile. As expected, it was just another clumsy attempt to sow discord. Unfortunately, Mom and Dad always bought into her act. "No, Juliana will suffer if she stays with you. I have to take her with me." Hearing Juliana's words, Mom became even more resolute and tried to pull her away. Mom and Dad fought fiercely over Juliana's custody, as if I were invisible, as though I didn't matter at all. In the end, they couldn't change Juliana's mind about wanting to go with Dad. Reluctantly, Mom chose me. But since Juliana generously gave me the opportunity to stay with Mom, she didn't even try to hide her disdain for me. I got into Axton's luxury car with Mom. Juliana, holding Dad's hand, bounced away happily. Before leaving, she shot me one last defiant glance. I didn't care. In fact, I felt a secret sense of joy. In this new life, Juliana still couldn't see the bigger picture. After all, Mom was now wealthy, while Dad's life was in tatters. Sitting in the car, Mom began to criticize me, her voice sharp. "You've always been ugly and unlikable. Now that we're going to live with Mr. White, don't embarrass me." It was almost laughable. What kind of mother would say such things about her daughter in front of others? Even though we came from the same womb, Juliana had always been the luckier one. She was beautiful, knew how to please our parents, and as a result, they both favored her. Since she was younger, they always told me I had to act like an older sister and let her have her way. Even after the divorce, they still only wanted her. But in this life, she chose Dad, giving him a small victory in front of Mom. What she didn't know was that in my previous life, Dad, desperate to escape debt collectors, dragged me from one place to another. I could never study in peace. His business failure, and Mom leaving, had struck him hard. He sank into despair, drinking away his days in a cheap rental, neglecting everything, including my school fees. I had once been a top student, but I had to drop out early to support him and our household. I spent my days cleaning up his messes, figuring out ways to dodge creditors. But in this new life, things were different. I was starting off on the right foot. Chapter 2. The car drove into a wealthy neighborhood. I knew my stepfather Axton White was wealthy in my previous life, but I never imagined he was this affluent. Within just a few days of moving in, he arranged for me to attend the best private school in the city. A dedicated driver picked me up and dropped me off every day. To make up for the fact that I had dropped out in my previous life, I devoted myself to my studies. I performed exceptionally well, ranking in the top 3 every year. Mom, who had always ignored me, was now more than happy to attend parent-teacher meetings. She relished the envy of other parents and the praise she received from the teachers. Since Axton didn't have any children of his own, I lived comfortably in this household. Mr. White, I want to study abroad. You're just a kid. What do you mean, study abroad? Don't think that just because you're doing well in school, you can get whatever you want. Before Axton had a chance to respond, Mom was already jumping in, livid. Later, I realized that truly disliking someone often doesn't need a reason. Even when that someone is your own mother. Axton wasn't the moody, domineering, violent man that Mom and Juliana had described him to be in my previous life. In fact, I found him to be quite intelligent, albeit proud, with a strong sense of self-respect. The tension between him and Mom became evident shortly after we moved in. Mom was nothing more than a trophy wife, beautiful, but lacking in substance. In truth, she and Dad had been a perfect match. Dad had been a typical rich second-generation heir, simple-minded, physically strong, and not particularly bright. He had married Mom using a combination of wealth and brute force. When my grandparents were alive, they were the ones holding everything together. But after they passed away, Dad fell into bad investments, encouraged by his so-called friends. He lost everything, including what my grandparents had left him. Mom quickly found a new partner and divorced Dad. My plan to study abroad was quickly shot down by Mom. But with my current grades, I knew I could easily get into a prestigious university in the country. Juliana, you're here. Miss Beatrix, is my mom home? She went shopping, but your sister is upstairs, reading. I heard Juliana's footsteps heading toward my room. Without waiting for my permission, she barged in and opened my door. Ophelia, stop pretending. No one's home. Who are you trying to impress? She sneered, grabbing my book from my hands. Though Dad was raising her, she came to our house almost every month to take money, jewelry, and clothes from Mom. Each time, she left with a carload of things. But by the next month, she would be back in tattered clothes again. All the good things were taken by Dad, who exchanged them for cash to fuel his vices. In this life, Dad not only drank, but also gambled away whatever he had left. Mom felt bad for Juliana, living such a difficult life with Dad. She even discussed with Axton the possibility of bringing Juliana to live with us. Axton agreed, but Dad refused to let her go. After all, he relied on Juliana to scrounge things from Mom to maintain his lifestyle. Studying so much has made you stupid. What's the point of reading all those books? You're not as pretty as me, and even Mom and Dad don't like you. Now you're enjoying a good life only because I let you. Enjoy it while you can, because it won't last long. She carelessly rifled through my things. After all, this room had been her princess room in my previous life. She looked through everything. TSK, you don't even know how to enjoy a good life. What are all these things? All you do is bury your head in those disgusting books. I ignored her, letting her do as she pleased. Juliana, my precious daughter, are you here? I watched coldly as they staged their mother-daughter act. Mom saw the state of my room. What are you even looking for here? Come to my room. I just bought new clothes, jewelry, and accessories. Take whatever you want. She pulled Juliana out without so much as a glance in my direction, not offering a single word of concern. Miss Beatrix brought up a glass of freshly squeezed orange juice. She entered my room and effortlessly began tidying up the mess. I've never seen such a biased mother, she muttered under her breath. I didn't care. After all, her good days were numbered. Chapter 3. A few days later, I heard a heated argument downstairs. How shameless can you be? You eat my food, wear my clothes, and still keep a boy toy outside. A sharp slap rang out, landing squarely on Mom's face. Juliana immediately rushed over to stop it. In a fit of fury, Axton shoved her to the floor. I haven't even mentioned your precious daughter yet. Didn't we agree that we'd each take one daughter? Why does she keep coming over here, taking half the things every time? Mom shot back stubbornly, "My daughter takes what's mine. It's none of your business." "Yours? Look at yourself. Which of these things weren't bought with my money? And now I'm stuck supporting your whole family. Axton, you have the nerve to blame me? If you weren't infertile, would I be in this situation?" Mom's words pushed Axton over the edge. He lost his composure and began throwing her belongings out, one after another. When she tried to intervene, he shoved her down again. No one dared step in, and Juliana huddled in the corner, too scared to move. Axton had married Mom for her beauty and the fact that she had 2 children. After the marriage, he treated me more like an heir, someone to mold and pass his legacy on to. In my previous life, Mom had taken full advantage of this, squandering his wealth without a second thought. Juliana, though beautiful, was empty-headed. That might have been acceptable, if only they hadn't been so greedy and simple-minded. Mom kept a lover, and Juliana shamelessly bragged that everything Axton had would eventually be hers. This news quickly reached Axton's ears. No one wants to hear that their wealth is already being eyed before they've even passed away. Not being his biological daughter, I knew he couldn't feel much of a bond with me. But still, I was far more tolerable than Mom and Juliana. In response, he brought in his nephew to groom as a successor and kicked them both out. In this life, as in the previous one, Mom was thrown out. But Axton didn't cast me aside. "Ophelia, staying with your clueless mother is a waste. You're better off staying with me." All my efforts had not been in vain. Axton recognized my intelligence, my ambition, and my broader outlook on life. Before making any major decisions, I always consulted him for advice. I even privately discussed the possibility of taking his surname. Of course, my shallow, fashion-obsessed mom knew nothing of this, and frankly, didn't care. Mom refused to leave, swearing that she'd rather die there. She had gravely underestimated Axton. A man who built his fortune from the ground up wasn't like my weak, rich second-generation dad. He wasn't going to fall for her petty tricks. "Miss Beatrix, go pack some of her things from the bedroom," he instructed, calling in security. And so, Mom and Juliana were unceremoniously thrown out. As Axton passed my room, he paused, placed a hand on my shoulder, and said, "Ophelia, focus on your studies. This is an adult matter." I nodded. Fools will always be fools, no matter how many lives they live. My life wasn't affected in the slightest. If anything, Axton valued me more now. Mom privately asked me to beg him on her behalf. Of course, I didn't. She called me every day, hurling insults in the nastiest language. Miss Beatrix overheard it once and began to wonder if I was really her biological daughter. In her eyes, only Juliana mattered. Without Mom's financial support, Juliana's life spiraled downward. She didn't do well in school and had no interest in learning. Seeing this, Dad stopped sending her to school, but she still ended up buried in debt, living a chaotic life. Meanwhile, I focused all my energy on preparing for the college entrance exams. Axton was very busy and hardly ever at home. One day, on my way home from school, a group of thugs blocked my path. That day, the family car was in for maintenance, so I was walking home instead. Not long after leaving school, a man stepped in front of me. "Are you Ophelia?" Before I could even respond, another man covered my mouth from behind and dragged me toward an abandoned warehouse. As soon as they pulled the blindfold off, one of them kicked me down to the ground. "Sister, enjoying the luxury life?" Juliana stood over me, looking down with a smug, almost triumphant expression. Chapter 4. Juliana slapped me hard across the face. "Bitch, I really underestimated you. That old man treats you like a treasure, even kicked Mom out, and you're still living in that house. I want to see what dirty tricks you used, or is it just your plain face?" She and Mom always thought they could seduce people with their looks, as if everyone else was like them. She grabbed a small knife and started waving it dangerously near my face. The sight of the knife made the thugs around us uneasy, and they tried to intervene. "Brother Garrick, we agreed to kidnap her, give her a good beating, and then let her go. But now you've taken off the blindfold and pulled out a knife. Garrick was Juliana's thug boyfriend. The others might have been loyal, but they weren't willing to be part of real violence. Garrick stepped forward to stop her. Juliana, scaring her is enough. She's your sister, after all. Spit, she doesn't deserve that title. She spat on my face. But, fortunately, she listened to him and didn't use the knife. In the end, they beat me until I couldn't stand, then finally let me go. I limped my way back to the villa. No one was home except Ms. Beatrix, who looked at me with concern. You left this morning just fine. How did you come back like this? I was covered in bruises, and she gently treated my wounds. That night, my long-absent stepfather returned, with my mom dressed up flamboyantly beside him. They had reconciled. Seeing my condition, Axton expressed some concern. Mom, on the other hand, said coldly, always causing trouble, never learning, unlike your sister, who knows how to behave. Yes, she had beaten me up earlier in the day, but now she was here, flaunting herself. Mom, don't you want to know who did this to me? I said, my anger boiling over. Who else? You must have done something shameful again. Ophelia, what happened to you? Mom's demeaning words were interrupted by Axton. I pointed toward Juliana. She brought a group of thugs to ambush me at the school gate. Are you out of your mind? What nonsense are you talking about? Juliana burst into tears, accusing me instead. I immediately played the footage I had copied earlier. After I was beaten, I went to a nearby spot with surveillance and copied the footage. Juliana wasn't stupid, but the footage clearly showed her group kidnapping me at the school gate, and her presence near the abandoned building. It wasn't perfect, but it was enough to expose the truth. Axton looked stunned, struggling to comprehend how someone could be so cruel, kidnapping and beating their own sister. Call the police. This is too serious to just laugh off. This doesn't prove Juliana did it. Ophelia, you're shameless. I may have neglected you lately, but you don't have to go so far as to frame your sister. Mom twisted the situation and blamed me. Juliana, do you know this person? Juliana denied it, claiming she was just passing by. Mom, you have to believe me. Juliana, the victim in her own story, slapped me again. I didn't react. After she hit me, she collapsed in a dramatic faint, sobbing uncontrollably. From start to finish, she played the victim, while I was the one who had been beaten. Great, now you've made your sister faint. You're truly heartless. How could I have given birth to someone like you? Mom rushed Juliana to her room and even called a private doctor to check on her. I dragged my battered body around, but not a single comforting word came from her. Chapter 5. Ophelia, don't blame your mom. It's just her temper. We'll have the doctor check on you later, Axton said, trying to comfort me. Meanwhile, in the room, Mom continued to curse me, throwing the most venomous words my way. Who does she take after? Such a rotten temper. But Juliana, our sweet Juliana, is always the best, the most sensible one. Once Mom and Axton went to rest, Juliana, looking perfectly fine, came to my room to warn me. Do you think you've won? Don't be so naive. Mom and Dad have always favored me. Your hardest days are still ahead. In my previous life, I'd always had it worse than her, and she didn't trouble me. But once I started to live better, she couldn't stand it and went mad with jealousy, trying to drag me down with her. In this life, she thought she would be the ultimate winner, but she still couldn't bear seeing me live more comfortably. That's why she sent people to beat me. No matter what, she could never stand to see me happy. But this time, it would be her who suffered. Axton's company faced a financial crisis, struggling with cash flow and unable to land any major contracts. Mom insisted he declare bankruptcy, but the company was his life's work. In the end, he made the difficult decision to sell or mortgage everything he could, using the funds to cover the company's debts. As a result, we had to move out of the villa, and the servants and drivers were let go. Just like in my previous life, the White family was now in decline. Meanwhile, my father's business was flourishing. He had secured several big clients and was expanding rapidly. Since we moved, Juliana never came to visit. Mom was hardly ever home, and her resentment toward Axton grew. She abandoned me, too. I spoke with Axton about taking a break from school to help him out. At first, he refused, but the company was understaffed, so he finally agreed. I started working at Axton's company. He traveled abroad for business, leaving the day-to-day operations to me and his nephew, Roland White. We were working around the clock, either in the office or handling business, barely having time to sleep. Roland was older, but having lived 2 lives, I was more experienced, so I handled things much more efficiently. He went from seeing me as a younger sister to consulting me on everything. We became allies. One evening, Roland and I returned home to find a luxury car parked in front of the house. Juliana got out, dressed head to toe in designer labels, with her thug boyfriend trailing behind her. It was clear she had come to show off. "Ophelia, why didn't you tell me you moved? Living in this dump, it's so hard to find you," she said, glancing over at Roland. "Is this your new boyfriend? He doesn't seem all that impressive." In my previous life, she had never cared about anything beyond eating, drinking, and playing, and she didn't know Roland at all. I ignored her and made my way into the house, brushing past her without saying a word. "Didn't you hear Juliana talking to you?" her thug boyfriend snarled, blocking my path like a dog begging for attention. Roland, though usually quiet and appearing frail, stepped forward and shoved the thug aside. Juliana hadn't expected him to defend me, and her temper flared. She lunged at me, trying to slap me. But I wasn't about to back down. I struck first, returning her slap with a sharp blow. Then I kicked her hard, sending her sprawling to the ground. I didn't even look back as I grabbed Roland's arm and pulled him into the house. "You dare hit me, you bastard!" Juliana screamed, raging outside. I grabbed a bucket of water, opened the door, and threw it over her head. "Instead of wasting your time cursing me here, why don't you go back and keep an eye on things? You might end up back in poverty again." Juliana thought I was cursing her and started yelling like a shrew. Finally, her thug boyfriend, unable to watch any longer, dragged her away. Chapter 6. Axton returned from abroad, having secured business deals. Roland and I stabilized the situation at home. But the difficulties weren't over. The company was in a critical transition period. If we didn't make it, all efforts would be in vain. One night, Axton came to me. "Ophelia, I'm back. With Roland at the company, I want you to focus on your studies. If you want to study abroad, I can arrange it." I was touched he remembered my wish to study abroad. But now, I no longer wanted to leave. "Mr. White, the company is struggling, and we don't have much money for me to study abroad. I'd rather stay here, continue my education, and help you after I graduate." Axton didn't push me. He reassured me that since he had no children of his own, I was like his daughter. I focused on preparing for my college entrance exams, with only 6 months to catch up on all subjects. Mom had disappeared since Axton's downfall, taking all the valuable items from the house. 6 months later, I got into the best university in the country. Meanwhile, Juliana had dropped out of school and was working a meaningless job at Dad's company, leading a life of idleness with her thug boyfriend. Axton booked the best hotel in the city to celebrate my college admission. Since it was a family event, we kept it simple with a few tables for close relatives. Somehow, Juliana heard about it and booked a table at the same hotel. But her good news was that she was pregnant and celebrating her impending motherhood. She strutted into my banquet room, ignoring the guests. "What's the point of getting good grades? You'll end up working for someone else. Unlike me, I have a husband who loves me, a father who supports me, and I'll inherit the company." She walked up to me, mocking. "Loser, in the end, I'm the one who wins. I've always had a better life than you." She threw a tantrum while Dad stood by, indifferent. The White family relatives whispered among themselves. Roland couldn't stand it and stepped in front of me, scolding her. Enough. Where's the staff? Axton, unable to bear it, defended me publicly. From now on, everything I have belongs to Ophelia. She is my daughter. Today, we not only celebrate my daughter's college admission, but also her official name change to White. Yes, since moving in with Axton, I had always called him Mr. White. He never asked me to change that. Today, to make me proud in front of my father and sister, he promised to leave everything to me. At that moment, blood ties didn't matter. Dad, I called him in front of everyone. Pfft, a company on the verge of bankruptcy. Who wants it? Juliana sneered. You're not welcome here. Please leave. I don't want to stay anyway. Dad followed her out, fawning over her. Chapter 7. In college, I continued helping at Axton's company. He taught me everything without reservation. I was used to calling him Mr. White, and he didn't mind letting me keep the habit. This time, Roland and I visited a private resort. Across from us sat a key industry figure, Mr. Jasper. We had a pleasant afternoon of discussions. In my previous life, it was through Mr. Jasper that Dad and I turned our fortunes around. By then, the company had started to improve, but it was still like an empty shell. I worked tirelessly to stabilize it, eventually meeting Mr. Jasper. He appreciated my abilities and trusted me with important tasks. In this life, while Dad and Juliana basked in their small successes, I had already connected with Mr. Jasper. In such a vast market, the first to enter wins. Looking forward to our cooperation. We reached an agreement with Mr. Jasper. Soon, all industry partners sought us out, and cash flow began to stabilize. The company revived. Juliana's clients quickly switched to us. Within 6 months, I repurchased the villa and luxury cars. The company became a local leader, featured in news and newspapers. Juliana's company went bankrupt due to insolvency. Dad gambled away the company's money. Juliana, with no skills, held a meaningless position, supporting her thug boyfriend. Dad fled from debt collectors. Juliana, unable to support her boyfriend, was abandoned. Pregnant and uneducated, she found a job washing dishes at a restaurant. One day, Roland and I went to a restaurant and saw her, young and pregnant, cleaning tables. Seeing me, she angrily approached, trying to hit me. It's impossible, absolutely impossible. Luckily, the owner stopped her. Her eyes were red, muttering impossible. The restaurant fired her, and I never saw her again. Mom, missing for a long time, reappeared after Axton's success. She cried and apologized, claiming she had been deceived. Clearly, she couldn't survive outside. Axton's expression was complex, but he let her stay in the guest room. The household dynamics had drastically changed. Axton agreed to everything I said, while Mom's requests were dismissed. Initially, she treated me as before, occasionally insulting me. Axton warned her to be nicer or leave. She finally stopped targeting me. But I still felt uneasy, sensing her watching me. She secretly made phone calls and frequently went out. As expected, one morning, I woke up bound in an abandoned warehouse. Who else could it be? Juliana, come out. Juliana, no longer pregnant, looked aged and worn. Unable to support herself, she had been persuaded by her boyfriend to abort the baby. Her boyfriend, worried, asked, "Will we really get money for this?" "Don't worry. Mom said the old man values her. Getting money is easy." So Mom was behind this too. No wonder she insisted on giving me a glass of warm milk last night, watching me drink it. They had planned this from the start. Chapter 8. In both lives, Mom favored Juliana, wishing me dead. "Juliana, I'm still your sister." "Sister? I've always been prettier and luckier than you." Why should you get all the good things while I end up like this? Don't worry, sister. If you cooperate, I'll make your death quick. She wanted to kill me and start over, but her boyfriend was scared of going to jail. We agreed to get the money and leave. I'm not in for murder. He tried to take the knife from her. At that moment, police sirens blared outside. You're surrounded. Release the hostage. I had anticipated her jealousy and unwillingness to give up. I had coordinated with Roland to call the police if I was taken. Mom's sudden concern last night made me suspicious. I messaged Roland before drinking the milk. The police surrounded the warehouse. Juliana, give up. You'll go to jail. Coward, what are you afraid of? We can start over. In my previous life, during Dad's birthday banquet, I had become a successful entrepreneur, surrounded by compliments. I remember Juliana being better than Ophelia as a child. Yes, but now it's the opposite. Juliana's a mess, while Ophelia's a success. Juliana, dressed plainly, approached me, saying, Sister, I don't want to embarrass you. Can we go to the mall for a decent outfit? Before the banquet, her pitiful act made me believe her. I took her in my new convertible to shop. But on the way, she went crazy, grabbing the steering wheel and crashing into a truck. When I woke up, we had both been reborn. She still didn't know I had been reborn too. Juliana's boyfriend took the knife, and she pulled out a gun. Today, you die. She pointed the gun at her boyfriend. Try to take it, and I'll kill you too. Her boyfriend, intimidated, backed off. Final warning, drop the gun and release the hostage. She ignored them, obsessed with starting over. I closed my eyes, awaiting fate. 3, 2, 1. A loud bang, but the bullet missed me. I opened my eyes to see Juliana in a pool of blood. The police sniper had been ready. I knelt beside her, whispering. Do you know why the gun didn't shoot me? Because it's a replica. Your boyfriend was bought off by me. How else do you think he got close to you? You're not the only one who was reborn. Chapter 9. Juliana looked at me with hatred, helpless. I had spent a lot to hire a private investigator to find her boyfriend and bribe him to encourage her to buy a fake gun. Turning passive into active. She couldn't use a knife, only a replica gun, forcing the police to shoot to protect me. Without lifting a finger, I eliminated a major threat. I was unharmed and released after a brief police inquiry. Axton and Roland were waiting at home. Where's Juliana? Why didn't she come back? Mom rushed to ask. How did you know she was with me? Did you put the sleeping pills in my milk? Mom denied it. I showed her the video of her spiking my drink, and she was speechless. Axton couldn't believe she would poison her own daughter. I laid out the photos and documents from the private investigator. They showed her with her lover and selling company secrets to competitors. She looked at me with dead eyes, lunging at me, but was restrained. You bitch, you killed Juliana. Why did I give birth to you? Is this what a mother says? Axton wanted a divorce. My surname had already been changed to White. Now, she was the outsider. She used every trick to stay, but Axton ignored her, treating her like a useless person. I balanced my studies and company responsibilities, becoming Roland's best partner and a shareholder. The company soon went public. Axton left everything to us and traveled the world. She's trying to kill me. Get rid of her, quickly. I need to hide before they find me. Mom seemed to have lost her mind after Juliana's death. Keeping her at home wasn't safe. I sent her to a mental hospital for treatment. Months later, I received a call from the hospital. Mom had died. She had a psychotic episode, sneaked out, wandered miles, muttering, Juliana. In the dark, she was hit by a car. Even in death, she only thought of Juliana. Mom, how much did you love her and disregard me?